are
Hello.
live. Welcome, everybody, to Ultimate Punching Live. I have a distinguished guest for me, the regular casual Absar. He's a good buddy of mine, and we talk about UFC probably more than most people. So I thought I'd have him on the Ultimate Punching channel. And today we're bringing you guys who we think is going to be on the UFC 300 card, aside from the three that have already been announced. So
Yeah.
there has been some speculation, Absar,
Yeah.
that this entire card is kind of going to be centered around the lightweight division, right? And there's been
Hmm.
some speculation that Islam Makhachev is going to be somewhere near the top of the listing in terms of fighting on this card. But
Mhm.
one of the things that I think a lot of people are overlooking is
Mhm.
Ramadan this year,
Wh-
right?
What day? What is the date for UFC 300?
UFC 300 is April 13th of this year, and Ramadan
Mhm.
is from March 10th, 2024 till April 9th, 2024. Now, typically that entire crew,
Yeah.
Khabib, Islam, all those Dagestani fighters, typically they don't compete, they don't train, they don't fight during the
No,
month
they
of Ramadan.
so they do train. Like if you ever watch their videos in Ramadan, they say that we train. We just want to make sure that this month is priority for us spiritually. So we don't want to compete on that, but they never stop training even in Ramadan. They say
Okay.
that our
So they
training
don't.
schedule goes at night. Yeah.
Okay, my understanding is that they would still train, right? But it wouldn't be as vigorous. You know what I mean? Like they're still working
Yeah.
out. They're still, but we're not like you. They're not doing like a fight camp in Ramadan.
They don't,
Am I
and
wrong?
no, no, you're right. They don't do it not because it is like no strenuous, because they have trained before. They basically they believe that in this month we want to focus more on our family and spirituality rather than our profession. So they don't want to spend a lot of time. Not that they don't train, because I remember in one of the Ramadan, Habib fought initially, when he was new, he probably didn't have much choices, so he just fought. So
Yeah,
I
yeah,
remember that. Yeah,
yeah. Dana White probably said, "Fight or you're cut," and he's like, "Well, I
exactly.
need to feed my family, so I'll fight and fast at the same time." Yeah,
Yeah,
Bilal Muhammad, who's not really part of that Dagestani crew, like he's taken fights during Ramadan as well.
yeah,
And he even said, like, I think it was on Joe Rogan's podcast, that he would train and he would fight fasting. But it's one of these things that I don't think that, like, I could be wrong here, but I just don't think that Islam would take a fight this close to Ramadan where he wouldn't be able to get in the volume of training that he normally would for a fight camp for that type of thing.
yeah. No, you're right, and that's the reason. Even I was listening to his coach, Javier Mendez, on his podcast, and he said the same thing. He said that they are targeting a fight before Ramadan starts, or ideally max the first week of Ramadan, so that they can
Yeah,
do the entire camp before Ramadan, and then
yeah,
have another fight in July or August, and then third fight in October in Abu Dhabi. So they want to do three fight for Islam ideally, but that only materializes if there is a fight before Ramadan, because for first 1 month they're not gonna fight. For the Ramadan month, they not fight, and then Islam and Habib they say that they need 4 weeks after Ramadan to recoup all their training schedule and stuff like that to get
yeah,
into
to
the
get back in
camp,
the
right?
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes total sense. I mean, one of the things I kind of criticize, I wouldn't call it criticism, but just I've kind of observed, right, is that Dana White, he kind of keeps Islam and Khabib and those guys on the shelf a little bit more than other fighters, just
Yep.
because he wants to kind of save them for the cards in Abu Dhabi. Save them for the cards. There's a Saudi Arabia card coming up in March, right? So
Mhm.
having them fight on, I mean, we probably won't see him fight on that card because that's like there would need to be a title on the line at the fight night. That never happens, right? But just save them for those cards where they're going to be a big draw and sell a lot of tickets, that type of thing.
Yeah, so that is a thing. I mean, I always laugh when people say, "Oh, these guys don't have fans, they don't pay-per-view." You have no clue the kind of viewership these guys pull, and especially whole Middle East and Abu Dhabi region was created because of this team, especially Habib, because the kind of number UFC pulls, and they know the best bet is on Islam, and earlier it was Habib, and now Islam, to make that show successful. No other fighter can
Yeah.
pull that kind of number. So they sacrifice Islam's frequency of fight by making sure he's available on October. Like even this year, right? This year Islam was like, give me a fight in July. I have fought in February, and everybody was blaming Islam, like, no, why he's not fighting, this and that, because Dana didn't wanted him to fight in July. He wanted
Yeah.
that after February with Alex, he needs to fight in October, and that's what
Yeah.
happened at the end.
Yeah, and it makes perfect sense. And I think, like, you have some of those other fighters that are becoming a big draw.
Mm-hmm.
Hamzat Chimaev, similar kind of story, right? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
they've talked about wanting him on, potentially on. Well, again, rumors, right? There's
Yeah.
rumors that he might be on the UFC 300 card. But my question is, against who? Right? Because so one of the other rumors that's going around is that Izzy's coming back to fight on the UFC 300 card.
Mm-hmm.
Now, logic would have you think that, okay, he's probably going to fight to get his title back between either the winner of Sean Strickland and Dricus du Plessis. But
Mm-hmm.
it's a very fast turnaround, right? You've got that fight scheduled January 20th. April 13th is UFC 300. And so if either of those guys or both of them, if they go through a war, if either of them gets substantially injured, that puts
Mm-hmm.
that potential match in jeopardy. So maybe there's like, again, rumors that Hamza Chimaev might fight Israel Adesanya. But again, like, there wouldn't be a unified title on the line, so that doesn't make a lot of sense in from my perspective.
Yeah, so what is happening right now is that Hamza Chimaev does not have U.S. visa. So
Yeah,
that is the reason, one of the reason why you don't see him in action for quite some time, right? Until it took him a year after the last fight to fight Usman in Abu Dhabi, because he has some visa issue going on in for US. So he's basically forced to fight in any card which is outside the US,
yeah.
right?
And
So
I think if I'm not mistaken, that has to do with the fact that he's like Chechen originally, and because of the whole issues with Russia or whatever, he can't get into these countries. Is that it?
that might be because I think he has Swedish nationality now, because
Okay.
he moved to Sweden, and then his family moved, and then he moved, and he got the Swedish nationality. But now he actually has moved out of Sweden and have moved to UAE actually. So he has
Yeah.
acquired the residency of UAE. But you're right, because of the Russia Ukraine war, a lot of Russia and Russian Republic like Dagestan and all these fighters have been having huge visa issue, including Habib's team. Like, do you remember when Habib's cousin Usman was fighting in Bellator? For
Yeah.
title, Habib was supposed to be there, and Habib didn't have visa that time.
Yeah.
Habib
Yeah.
didn't have visa, so he ended up having a charity session in Canada instead of going there. So a lot of visa issues, and I'm pretty sure that's the reason. But coming back to the fight, um, Hamzat Chimaev would jump into any big fight because he is that big of a star for Dana White,
Yeah.
um, and especially the fights which can get him close to the title. Because I think the kind of height he had, it is kind of little bit deflated now, because of
Yeah.
he still have a star power, but the hype is gone because of two close fight he had. He had with Burns and with Usman. So
Yeah.
he didn't have, like, people thought he is the next Habib. He let people thought that he is the kind of dominance he was.
Yeah.
But last two fight, people thought, like, hey, yeah, he's a good fighter, but it is close fight. Both fight, people
He's
gave
a good fighter,
50-50.
but he's a human being. He can
He's a
be
human
get
being.
tired, he can be hurt, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
I mean, the Gilbert Burns fight was really close. The one back in October there, the
Usman.
naysayer, or like sort of the what I would call like the team Chimaev people are basically saying,
Yeah,
and he even said it himself, he broke his hand, right? Which is why
yeah.
broke his hand in the first round, which is why he couldn't perform as well against Usman. But Usman's also one of the most dominant champions in welterweight history, moving up to 185. So a
Mm.
part of me thinks, like, he refused to be submitted in that first round, and he's got 5-round pace, right? So
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, happened to watch half of the fight because I was driving while watching the pay-per-view. So
Yeah,
I saw the first round. I'm like, damn, he's gonna finish Usman in the first round itself. And then
yeah,
Usman comes back, and Usman hits back, man. Usman is like a true veteran, and I feel he actually, I don't know if you saw his tweet, Instagram message. He actually said, "Let's do round two with Chimaev." He's like, "Let's do it," and I think most people think if it is a 5 round fight, he defeats Chimaev. A lot of people said, I don't know if that's the case, but I think Usman's body is very much like apt to the welterweight, no, sorry, not middleweight category. Only reason he has not gone up is because Izzy was champion. Now that Izzy is out
yeah.
of picture, I think he will try to fight more in the middleweight.
Yeah, I think so too. And I mean, so I thought that, and the other thing too was on short notice, right? Give him a full camp, give Chimaev a full camp.
Yeah.
Give a, if he broke his hand in the first round, but still, there like that. That's a long fight, and so I definitely think Guzman has the potential to come out on top in that one. So to me, and I know neither of us are major Connor fans, but
Yeah.
I'm kind of
Yeah.
thinking that UFC 300 is going to have Conor return to the octagon because, like I said, the two other big rumors are Islam Makhachev is going to fight on that one. To me, Ramadan's a little bit of an issue to see whether or not that's going to be true. And Izzy fighting on that one, that'll depend greatly on what happens in January between Sean Strickland and Dricus Duplessis. If either one of those guys get majorly hurt, which again, I don't think we're going to hear an announcement on whether Izzy's fighting at that time until after that event is done to
Mm.
determine whether or not they're going to be healthy enough to take that fight. So I think their only option for like a main event with UFC 300 is probably Connor and Chandler, Connor Nate Diaz. I've heard those rumors, that type of thing.
Yeah, Connor can be like, actually I was there was this boxing match yesterday, I think, Deontay
Yeah,
Wilder, and I was in Saudi Arabia, so Connor was in attendance, and I heard a little bit of clip on Instagram. He was very frustrated about the fact that, like, why his return is so delayed. So I think behind the scene, Dana White allowed him to get full juice after he broke his leg, and then basically they was a USADA had an issue with it, and Dana wanted USADA to basically go lenient on Conor, and they didn't want it to. Now USADA and UFC parted their ways. So I
yeah,
think there is something going on, and it will make most sense for Dana to put Conor because it is an iconic card 300. So Conor need to be there, their biggest cash cow. Habib is not there. After Conor, he was the biggest star in there. He's not there. So Conor need to be there, but I don't know if he would be there because there is behind the scene there is something going on. I feel that he wouldn't be ready by till May. It seems like there is still some issues with his blood work and stuff because of course he healed himself. His entire facial structure changed. The amount of juice he's taken,
yeah,
and
yeah,
excuse me. So yeah, like, okay, let's talk about who we want on the card. Who we want to see. So I would like to see all the contemporary legends on the fight. Like, I want Dustin Poirier,
yeah,
and Dustin Poirier and Nate Diaz are going back and forth. Nate Diaz is such a, like, he is a crowd puller, as I said, needle mover, but he's such a waste of fight now. Like, it's like, he gets tired in the middle of the fight. He's gonna go take a rest. But he finished Tony Ferguson, so I don't know. Maybe it will be Nate and Dustin. It could be possible.
yeah. So I mean, yeah, I think I mean certainly you want some bangers on there. By the way, I came
Mm-hmm.
up with a new idea for the BMF belt.
Mm-hmm.
So what I think they could do from now on, they should have a BMF title in every weight category, and the
Mm-hmm.
unwritten rule for the BMF belt is no takedowns. It's just a
Yeah.
straight up it's a straight up stand and bang belt.
Call it that. Stand and bang belt, not a BMF belt. I mean, I don't like the name anyway. But I mean, then you know what? UFC will become like one. One has a,
Yeah.
one has a weird fight. One round it will be MMA, second round it is just kickboxing, third round is
Yeah.
just grappling. Then it becomes a very hybrid of a sport. It's not
No, I
MMA
know.
anymore.
I agree with you. I just know, like, because I mean, in reality, right, the BMF
Yeah.
belt has been issued 2 times, and in both circumstances, you knew the two people were just going to stand and punch each other, punch and kick each other, right?
Yeah, the thing is, like, I have the same take as Islam Makhachev has. Like, people who cannot win the real belt get a BMF belt, in a sense that th- it is all about like commercial side of it. Dana created this belt so he can sell more pay-per-view. It has no value. There is no
Yeah,
defending. There is no lineal champion or something like that, right? It's just,
you're winning
oh, let's
it.
create. Tomorrow they can have, like, they were, what they were propagating, nicest motherfucker belt, NMF, between Wonder Boy and Luke Vicente or something like that. Two nice guys. Like, what the heck?
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, the people I want to see on the UFC 300 card, like I said, that like there's my favorite fighters, and then there's sort of the guys who I think will put on the best show.
Mm.
So I mean, I think I would like to see Conor back in there, and I probably would want to see him fight Nate Diaz, just because they have that would be their trilogy bout. Probably one of the last times we see Conor in there, because he's what, 35, 36. Broke his leg, whatever the case may be. So we might see him in there one, maybe two more times before he like finally just hangs it up, right? Now the what some people online were saying that, and this wasn't a terrible point, but I don't think the fans really want to see that, is Connor Dustin 4, right? And the reason why they want to do it is because, and someone said because Dustin was KO'd recently, although I still think Dustin's going to come back and fight pretty hard. So he might be easier to KO for Connor, and that'll put him in an immediate title shot against Islam. So but I mean, even if he goes up against Chandler, it's the same sort of thing. He KOs Chandler, immediate title shot. So I don't think there's much of a difference there. So I think that the like Conor versus Nate Diaz would be the number one fight to make on the UFC 300 card if those issues can be solved.
I agree. Yeah, like Connor and Nate Diaz make more sense than Connor and Chandler. Chandler is a good fighter. He's an entertaining fighter, but he's such a placeholder kind of fighter. Like, they have put him in top 5 ranking just as a placeholder. He does not deserve to be there. Like, if you look at it, how many fights he won? Probably one or two fights maximum.
Two, Tony and
Oh yeah,
Dan
Dan
Hooker.
Hooker. That's it.
Yeah,
That's it. And Tony fight, like, it was like, first round, like, Tony was giving him trouble. Actually, he knocked him down
yeah,
once. So, like, that guy is as entertaining, but I think his time has passed. And even Dustin fight, it was a competitive fight, but, like, he's most undeserving of all in top 5. If you look at top 5, I
yeah,
remember, like, there was this funny thing. Islam tweeted recently, Arman, Justin, Charles, Dustin, these these are the best fighters. They are the top 5. But until I am here, nobody can take my belts. He mentioned top 5, but he didn't mention Chandler, because he's like, no,
yeah,
these four
yeah,
deserve it. So I don't want to see Chandler versus Conor, because it is a lose-lose for fan, actually.
yeah,
If Chandler wins, let's just say Chandler wins, I think the chances of Conor winning would be high, because Chandler has bad defense and he gets hit. He is not. He has most, like, as Islam said, he has a lot of skills, but does not play smart, compared to
mhm,
the skills he has. So I think the chances of Conor winning, and if Conor wins, he jumps the line after 3 years and suddenly he's in title contention.
yeah.
But if Nate and Conor fight happens, that's a good fight for fan.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, in a perfect world, I think that one would headline. Another one that I'd really like to see is, and I know we just saw it, but trilogy. We've got a Nate trilogy: Justin Gaethje and Dustin Poirier 3, right? Because Dustin won their first one, Gaethje won their second one for the BMF. Third one, Gaethje Poirier 3. I'd be down to see that one. again.
I would be, but it is not going to happen. I think Justin is fighting Islam next. There are more chances. There is Dana has been very clear about Islam not getting a welterweight title, and he should
Yeah,
not. He should freaking defend his title in his division at least once, twice before moving up and down everywhere.
yeah,
I think Justin is most likely fighting Islam, either in UFC 300 or UFC 299, wherever, because
yeah,
we want to see Islam against a legit contender in a sense, like
yeah,
uh,
yeah. And then, well, so another one I'd like to see on that card is kind of a number one contenders match, like maybe Justin Gaethje is next for Islam, but Charles Oliveira versus Arman Sarukian.
yeah, that would be very interesting fight. I would want to see that too. Because Charles, Dustin, Justin, these guys, especially Justin, they get title shot after title shot after title shot. Like, I
Yeah.
mean, bring some people in mix. Like, it shouldn't be like, you can hold the ranking like that. They just fight between themselves and get a title shot. So I do definitely want to see Arman versus Charles. Absolutely. And um, I think Arman is a very good fighter, but I still don't think Arman has fought the right caliber
Yeah.
fighter.
So I mean, like, back when he defeated Dariush, right,
Mm.
in UFC Austin, this was a few weeks ago. My thinking about what was going to happen in that fight was Dariush faced Gamrot about a year ago, and he was able to sort of contend with all of Gamrot's grappling, right?
Mhm.
Gamrot also out grappled and outstruck Sarukian in their fight prior to that, right?
Mm.
And so I was thinking that we were going to see another grappling heavy match in which Dariush would get the nod, but this guy has some KO power too. The point I'm trying to make is that if it comes down to a grappling contest between him and Charles Oliveira, my money's on Charles Oliveira. If we're
Yeah,
talking
I
about
I I disagree with you on that. If it comes to jiu-jitsu, maybe yes, Charles. But if you come to grappling, even if you watch Gamrot and a Sarukian fight, it was a very, very divisive split decision. It was not a unanimous decision. A lot of people said Arman won the fight. If you look at that fight, Gamrot was doing a lot of grappling, but Arman was the one who was giving bigger punches and getting Gamrot out. So I felt it was a very 50-50 fight. Even with Islam fight, if you look at the kind of sequence they have, man, it was beautiful. The only thing I would say Charles will have advantage is Charles is more sneakier than anybody Arman has fought in terms of getting submission and stuff like that. And Charles also has uh, good punching power compared to most of the fighter Arman has fought. But the bad thing for Charles is that Charles does not have a chin to handle the power which comes from Arman.
That's a good point. The one I mean, when I watched that Sarukian Gamrot fight again, I'd have to rewatch it to think. But at the end of it, it just to me it looked like uh, Sarukian's face was just had a little bit more damage to it than Gamrot. But again, like long time ago, the
Yeah,
details might be fuzzy. But either way, I would like to see Charles versus
yeah.
Dariush for that number one contender, especially because of the fact that
Charles
Charles pulled
versus
out.
Arman.
What did I
You
say?
you said Dariush.
Yeah, Charles versus Armand. We already saw Charles versus Dariush. You finished him in the
Mm,
first round.
mm,
Um,
yeah.
but anyway, yeah. So that would be another one that
Charles
I'd really
versus
like to see.
Dariush is good. You
Charles versus
wanna
Armand. Charles versus Armand.
Charles versus Arman? Yes. You know who I would like to see if you look at lightweight, I wanna see Gamrot versus um, Fiziev.
Oh, Fazeev. Okay. I mean, that ended in a TKO, right? Because he broke his leg on an elbow or something like that. He hurt himself when they last time they fought.
No, Fiziev and Gamrot fight never happened.
Yeah, they did.
No. Fiziev and Justin Gaethje fought.
No, but the Fiziev also fought Gamrot, and I
Oh
think he
yes,
picked
yes,
it up.
yes, yes. Yeah. So sorry, you're right, and that's the reason I want a rematch because that one was a kind of fluke
Fluke
accident.
TKO, right? I think, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, if Fiziev won with
I'd be
TKO.
down to see that again. The other guy who I'd like to see kind of pop up into this mix is Benoit Saint Denis. He's the French Special Forces guy.
Man, to be honest, this is what pisses me off sometimes. That guy just popped up from nowhere and got ranked in top 15. Look at their win. He has not fought the cream of the crop to land there. I know fighters, even Arman, Islam, these fighters have to fight so many fights to land in top 15, man. So, yeah, I want to see this guy tested against somebody like Jalen
You know,
Turner or
Dan Hooker would be a
Dan
great match.
Hooker. Yes, Dan Hooker, absolutely. Dan Hooker, Jalen Turner, these guys, definitely. I wanna see them because yeah, that guy. I mean, he looks good, but if you remember that this guy was beaten to pulp in Abu Dhabi card last year. He debuted in welterweight. Actually,
Yeah, yeah,
referee in that fight was fired because he didn't stop the fight. He
yeah,
kept he allowed him beat. I think me and you we watched it together in
I
Winnipeg.
think we did. Yeah, we watched it together, and that guy was getting his ass kicked. But the fact that
Yeah.
he's come back, and I think he's won something like 4 or 5 in a row since then, is it's pretty impressive, right?
Yeah.
And so here's one that this is
Wait,
driving.
before we go away, actually the guy, the Benut Sen Dennis BSD, I want
Yeah,
him to see against Drew Dober because I forgot Drew Dober is a dark horse. He's not a championship caliber, but he's just a level or two below. I want to see him beneath against Drew Dober because both are very skilled striker
yeah, and Drew Dober does have that sort of what do you call dynamite punch.
and a great chin to
Yeah,
handle.
yeah. So I want to just move on. I want to talk about one more potential match, which like this is driving me crazy, but a lot of people are talking about it, which is Alex Pereira
Hmm.
going up and fighting Tom Aspinall for the interim heavyweight title. This, like, so many people want this to happen, but I don't because Pereira has not defended. He didn't defend the middleweight title.
He did. He
Hasn't.
lost.
Well, yeah, what I mean is he did not
Yeah.
defend the title, right? He
No,
fought again. He tried to.
he did, but he lost the defense. That's what I'm saying. He fought
Thus
against
he did not.
Israel.
Thus he did not defend it, right? Anyway, the point being that like he didn't defend the middleweight title. He tried to, but he failed. Izzy won it
Mm,
back, right?
yeah.
Now he's got the light heavyweight title, which again, great accomplishment, but
Mm,
let's see, defend it against somebody first before we move up to heavyweight. And also,
agree.
Pereira can be knocked out, and this guy Aspinall weighs like 200, whatever the heavyweight limit is. That's what this guy weighs. So
Yeah. Yeah, Tom Aspinall is such an underrated fighter, man. His boxing is crisp, his wrestling is good. I want to see him fight legit contender. Like, this whole John Jones out, so he's not gonna relinquish the belt, and then he's not gonna fight interim champ. He's gonna defend against Stipe. This is how Dana fucks up Dana White privilege fucks up everything basically.
yeah,
They should actually have made John comes back the way Whitaker came back when he was injured and fought the interim champ Israel that time.
yeah.
So, but I don't think Dana gonna give Alex any. He need to defend because light heavyweight is probably one of the most stacked division right now
Yeah,
ever. If you look at light, if you go by Jamal Hill is there, like crazy power. Like only
yeah,
reason he's not champ is because he relinquished the belt, not because he lost it.
yeah,
Iri Prohaska's fight was good fight. Again, Magomed Ankalaev. That guy should have been champion. They denied him. They denied my boy championship belt
Yeah, because
because
Dana White hates that guy. I don't know why, but Dana White hates that guy.
yeah, Dana White literally hates that guy, and he like string of bad luck. He got denied belt, and somehow even freaking you don't remember that fight with Jan? Jan is like
Yeah,
Jan is doing this. Oh yeah, he's become, and then he said, oh, it's a draw. Like freaking, it was not draw. And then so his fight is coming up with Johnny Walker. I think it's sometime in January, right?
yeah,
So if you look at it, like light heavyweight is tag division. No, I don't think Alex will have ever time to go up. At minimum
yeah.
two
Well,
defenses.
and then Rakic, who's Rakic fighting?
Rakitic.
I think it was.
Yeah, he is
He,
fighting. Who is he fighting? He is
is he
fighting
fighting?
Jiri.
Okay, yeah, because he was supposed to fight Jan, I think, but then Jan got hurt. So
Yeah, Yanga. So he's fighting Hiri Praska. Alexander Rakic again, great fighter, man. Like these are like fighter which look like they are like ideal frame, size, weight class. Like they are not
yeah,
big. Um, uh, um, uh, there's Khalil Roundtree. Man, that guy is
yeah,
menace.
that guy too.
Crazy.
I did.
Uh,
Okay, I got to just say something that I found to be funny. I don't know if you watched the fight where he KO'd Anthony Smith there, right? But in
yeah.
his post fight like interview in the octagon, right? He's like, if you really listen to the fans, what they want to see is me versus Alex Pereira. And I just think to myself, I don't think I've ever heard any fan on any forum or any online say that. But I can see it. I'd be down. I'd
Yeah.
watch.
Yeah, there is another Russian. I don't know if he's Dagestani or not fighter, which just entered the ranking. Azmat Murazkanov. He is 13-0, and nine win by knockout. 8 of them are first round finishes,
Interesting.
and he is like 3-0, all um, uh, 2 KOs and 1 unanimous. So that is a good guy to watch out for. So like light heavyweight is again stacked. I don't think he is moving up anytime soon. But if you look at UFC 300 again, I would like to see somebody like him versus Khalil Roundtree, or Khalil Roundtree versus maybe Jamal Hill. Jamal Hill versus Khalil Roundtree would be a good fight as well.
Yeah. Is Jamal Hill going to be back by then? Like, I know he was dealing with an injury, but I don't know when he's supposed to fight
He
again.
was dealing with an injury and then he was jailed for some domestic violence. He beat up his brother.
So they say, yeah.
I came to know that beating up your brother is also domestic violence. I thought it's only spouse.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, right? Those definitely sound like two different things. But I guess when you're a professional fighter, beating up any civilian is probably not a wise thing to do.
Oh, by the way, in welterweight, do you think any fight which you want to see in the
So,
300?
I mean, I would like to see Bilal get his shot
Same.
against Leon, but Leon, just this guy spells delay, right? Like, I don't think I'd be shocked if we see him in there again before June of 2024.
Who?
Leon,
Yeah,
like,
I mean,
so
no.
and this is the thing, right? And this is what a lot of people are saying, that if you have Conor as
Mhm.
the headline for UFC 300, which to me, like, that's the only one that makes, like, the others make sense, but this one is kind of almost like a guarantee, right? The other
Mhm.
ones, like Islam Makhachev, probably not because of Ramadan. Izzy, there's a question mark because of what's happening in January. Like
Mhm.
Conor, unless there's some stuff we don't know about behind the scenes, this one is probably the closest to a guarantee, right?
Yeah.
In terms of sales, in terms of whatever, right? But then a big issue is the fact that, do you have titles on the line? Because if you have titles on the line, typically titles take precedence over just a fight, right? But at the same, Connor's the head billing, right? So there's no chance they're going to put Leon as a main event above Connor. No chance.
Yeah.
So
Sean O'Malley is fighting in UFC
299.
300. So they no 299 or UFC 300.
Yeah, Sean O'Malley's to UFC 299. Like the month before.
Oh shit! And UFC 300 is what date?
April 13th. April 13th. I think March 9th is, or something like that. March 9th or whatever is UFC 299.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean they could have saved that him for UFC 300. I guess they were gonna make UFC 300 more of an iconic card, so
Yeah.
maybe there are championship fight might not be there. But in welterweight, I don't see there are no stars except I would say Kamaru Usman, Shavkat. These two are big stars.
Yeah.
Gilbert Burn, you can say. Apart from that, there are no star power
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. And as much as I like Bilal, like he's not a draw really. And same with
He
Leon.
thing is that like in he's a draw in Middle East. Um,
Yeah.
uh, Not every Muslim fighter is a draw in Middle East, but he is one of the guy who is a draw in Middle East. Um, yeah. Okay. Welterweight. We looked at light heavyweight. What else? Yeah. Flyweight. In flyweight, the only guy I would say which makes sense is that the British Dagestani guy, Mohammad Mokaev.
Yeah,
He
but
is.
he's fighting on the UFC Saudi Arabia card a month before.
Oh, he is. Okay.
Yeah. And actually, one of the things that I've heard, again, this is a
Mm.
rumor. I don't know if you saw his debut. By the way, best debut of 2023 in my opinion. Uh, Sharabutin Magomedov, Mega,
Yeah.
yeah, the pirate,
Yeah.
the
The
pirate.
pirate. Yes. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the rumor is that this guy is going to be headlining UFC Saudi Arabia, which I don't know if that's true,
I
but
heard that
this
too.
guy, I like. First of all, I thought he was Dagestani. I'm pretty sure he is Dagestani,
Is
but
is
he has no wrestling or takedown defense, which I just thought like you
so
were born with wrestling skills up there.
no. So a lot of people confuse the Dagestan as wrestling. Yes, Dagestan. A lot of people know wrestling, but Dagestan, the region, the whole region of Caucasus, is basically combat sport friendly region. Wrestling being one of them. He is a kickboxing champion, and there are a lot of kickboxing champion who come from Dagestan and Chechen region. There are kung fu champion. There is this guy Muslim Salikov. He's the first or one of
Heard of
the
this guy
few
too.
Muslim. His name is Muslim, but he's for one of the few Muslim wushu shanda champion in the world. So a lot of people confuse wrestling. Is everybody knows wrestling? No, everybody knows some kind of combat sport. Either it is there's like Usman and Umar Nurmagomedov. Their base was not wrestling. Their base was kickboxing.
Oh, okay.
They learned wrestling later. They said that they competed in kickboxing for quite some time.
That's interesting. So anyway, I thought this guy, like, first of all, this guy had probably one of the most entertaining debuts.
Oh, I
I
didn't
put
see the
that at
match. I haven't seen.
okay. So
Haven't seen it.
anyway, let me describe it to you. This guy, he was on the first fight on the UFC 294 card, right?
Mm.
One Eye, the Pirate, whatever the case may be. And this guy, his kicks remind me of like Edson Barbosa and Yair Rodriguez, right?
Wow.
Just like, kicking them from these angles that you would never expect. He's down on the ground. Like the guy takes him down. He's down on the ground. The guy's trying to decide whether or not to ground and pound him. And then he does a capoeira kick and kicks him in the face, not once, but twice. So
Wow.
like super entertaining guy, needs a little bit of work on his takedown defense, but man, if this guy can, figure that shit out, he's going to be a mega star because of how entertaining his style is, in my opinion.
I think that's the reason he got signed up. Like he that first thing he has this whole one eye vibe going on. People, he's
Yeah.
different. He's different, right? A red beard and one
Yeah.
eye, and he call himself pirate. And actually, you know how he became famous?
How?
Before. I saw about this guy in Joe Rogan's podcast a year or two. He became famous because he punched the shit out of a guy in Dagestan who was kissing his girlfriend in an elevator, and he said, "Don't do that. It is Dagestan. It's public. We don't do shit." And the guy started to attack him, so he punched the shit out of him in the road, like roundhouse kick.
Yeah. That's
So
hilarious.
that's how he became famous, and then probably UFC somebody scouted in UFC like, look at this guy, he's winning and he's entertaining as a personality, controversial, one eye,
Yeah.
of course, sign him up.
Well, and he said Michael Bisping's his hero. So,
Yeah, I
all
wonder what
right.
Michael Bisping has to say about it.
Well, I think I remember him saying that I know he met him at that UFC 294. I don't remember when that was happening, but it's interesting stuff. So
You
anyway,
know who needs to be there? Like we can wrap it up, but entertaining as AF is this guy, man. What's it called? Who said like my balls are hot? Was it the Black Beast?
oh, Derek Lewis.
He gotta be there on UFC 300, bro.
Yeah. The problem is Derek. I mean, Derek Lewis is super entertaining, and I like the guy, but it's just like he's fairly low in terms of the ranking list. Like whoever he still has that crazy KO power, right? But his last fight against Jailton Almeida, like, was a big snooze fest where Jailton basically just held him down for 5 rounds.
Charleston Almeida, that guy is like he looks like light heavyweight and he's
Yeah,
dominating heavyweight. I wanna see. I think his next fight is with Curtis Blade, who is a
yeah.
legit wrestler. So it will be interesting to see how he does
Yeah, and
in
apparently the
that.
guy has a crazy good boxing background. He just never uses it because he's so good at grappling.
Yeah, he is a good guy until he runs into somebody who would be little more skilled than what he had fought before.
Yeah,
Like Curtis Blade would be one of them. Alexander Volkov. Alexander Volkov has improved so much. Like
yeah,
so it'll be interesting. UFC 300. I mean, they better be making it iconic. Otherwise, it'll suck
yeah.
for a card.
The other guy I want to see Jailton Almeida fight, to be honest with you, is Cyril Gane.
Yeah, Cyril Khan would be a problem with him. Cyril Khan is because Almeida does not have the brute force of Ngannou,
Yeah.
right? The way he held down Cyril Khan. So Cyril Khan is very good at grappling,
Well, exactly,
and
and I mean, Ngannou had 20 pounds on the guy, right? Whereas this guy might be light 10. So
exactly. But Curtis Blade would give us fight with Curtis Blade will give us good answer. Like if you look at Jelson Edmunda is I'm looking at the ranking is number 7. Alexander Volkov is a tough fight. Curtis Blade is a tough fight. Stipe Miocic, I mean, yeah, it is a tough fight. Stipe Miocic is good everywhere. Sergey Pavlovich, I mean, I was so disappointed the way he lost, but Sergey Pavlovich again, very very good fight. Like good
yeah,
boxing, good wrestling. Yeah, like all the easy fight he could have, he had. Now it will
yeah.
be difficult fights.
There's
Like
no
it
more
will
easy
not be.
fights.
No, none of them. And now the heavyweights are not like big fat machines. They are coming like
Yeah, they
pretty
actually look
skilled.
like athletes now. They actually
Yeah,
look like athletes, not guys who just stumbled out of a beer hall with gloves on.
yeah. Like look at like DC. DC is 5 feet 10 inches, man.
Yeah,
And the reason he was dominating, like no, you cannot have that height and that kind of record unless you have really good skills against those light heavyweights and stuff like that. And that's what he
yeah,
had. He did not let his height have disadvantage over anybody.
yeah, yeah. So those would be some good. I think they're like, yeah, I think they've got us somehow centered around Connor because the other, in terms of UFC 300, the other options just seem like too big of a risk.
Mm.
But then at the same time, then you don't have any titles
Yeah.
on the line at UFC 300 from the sounds of it.
I don't watch women's MMA, but I guess one fighter I would say I would like to see is Tatiana Suarez. She has very similar dominating, grappling kind of personality. They call it Habib of the women's division because she's
I
dominant.
don't even know what division she's in. What, flyweight?
I think she's in strawweight.
Strawweight.
She's in a strawweight now, but I think she was in a different. Yeah, she is in a strawweight, but he fought in the flyweight as well, if I am not wrong.
I mean,
Yeah, but
the name sounds familiar. I can't. remember.
She is very good, and I came to know about her. From somebody that I have seen one of her. Yeah, she's very dominant, very good wrestling. If you ever watch her interview about Islam Makhachev, she's no, nobody is defeating him. His grappling is too much, and I know as a grappler this and that. So it's good, bro. It was, yeah. I hope it's a good card, but I don't. I think they're gonna make big deal about the card, but they would not be able to. Um, Sometimes what happens, a card gets hyped up, but does not deliver, and then some cards do not get hyped up, and they deliver like crazy.
Yeah, well, that's just it, right? So, for example, UFC 299 is already pretty stacked, right? So
Yeah.
they're going to somehow have to top that for UFC 300, which it's like just because of circumstances, I think that's going to be a hard thing to do. But we'll see.
Yeah, I think UFC 298 or UFC 299, they will put Islam and Justin, most likely. Otherwise, you would not. Islam may not be fighting till May, which is not good for his. If you want to do 3 fights a year, he better be fighting in March, early week of March.
Yeah.
And then he will fight end of July, and if he's good, then he's fight October. He headlines the October card again. I think he has three more title defenses. It will be Justin, it will be Arman, it will be Charles, and then
he can move up to welterweight with my blessing.
Exactly. I want my boy Bilal to at least have one shot. If he wins, Islam and Bilal are not going to fight. So we'll see how. That's one thing. I think most likely by that time, this guy might move from Bellator to UFC, Usman Nurmagomedov, because that place is becoming so crowded. Bellator got bought by PFL, and now there are so many fighters from the same gym in the ranking that they will have a hard time matching them up. Not the promoters, but these guys agreeing to, especially the guys from Dagestan, they do not like fighting each other outside. Habib have fought his own teammate, but it was because there was nobody available before UFC. But I think when they come to bigger promotion, they want to avoid that.
Yeah, makes sense. All right, I got to run here, but this was a good one. We'll do this again soon as we get closer to UFC 300 to give our predictions.
Yeah, we should do a fight analysis after the UFC thing is over.
Sounds good. Well,
Sunday nights.
Sounds good. Let's do it.
Okay.
Stay tuned, folks. This is going to be a regular on the Ultimate Punching channel. Thank you all for stopping by. Nobody watched, but they're gonna get to know us.
All right. Take care, bro.
All right. Take care. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam.